Ah,
Ah, how's it going?
it's going great. It's an early morning. It's going to be a crazy day here at the Murphys.
Crazy day at the Murphys. Well,
We've just got some travel today. So
gotcha.
yeah,
Well, thanks for jumping on, bro. What's what's your time frame for today? How long you
I
got?
got a strong 30, but you got everything I got for 30. Everything I got.
All right, cool. Well,
It's going to be amazing. This is going to be a good show. The NFL is in full swing, and there's some craziness going on. Some craziness.
Well, that's awesome, dude.
Let's talk cards. Let's talk cards.
Let's talk
about,
cards.
You know, I want to hear about a couple of the sales that you've made recently. I really liked the last show that we did a week and a half ago when you kind of talked about a couple of things you got cooking. Because right now in my life, my job change and all that, I don't have some of that free time. So I am really excited for some time off at the end of December to where I'm going to send my stuff in. I'm really excited about it. I've got 2 days marked off where I am just going to worry about cards for 2 days. But I want to hear what you got happening.
Well, that's awesome. Okay, before I get into that, what are you going to send in?
Well, we already talked about it. We talked about it on the last show. We had a few Jordan cards.
The Jordans, the Griffies.
Yeah, the Jordans, the Griffies, that Johnny Bench 1980, that is really good card. I got a couple Barry Sanders cards that are pretty interesting in there too. So yeah, I've got a few that I'm sending along. I gotta review what I have once again, and then do it. And then honestly, I might buy myself a little Christmas present.
What do you got anything lined up for your little Christmas present? Is it going to be a box of wax, or what do you?
It's gonna be a box of wax. I might spend, I don't know, $400 or $500 on a box of wax and just do it here on the show.
Oh, that's awesome. We need that on the show. That'd be great. I think everybody would like to see that. I certainly would.
It'll be fun.
All right. Well, we're expanding our audience, Nate. We're doing a lot of outreach, and we're getting a lot of comments on the videos. We're starting a Facebook group.
How are we doing?
We're growing slowly but surely. I think we're, if you remember the old days of nooffseason.com with the forums, we had some Mike Heel and some GRS001. I think we're getting a couple of our new versions of those guys. We've got guys like, let's give some shout outs actually.
Okay, let's do that.
Trading Card Experience is a YouTube account that's commented on a lot of our recent videos. There's let's see, I want to say his name is Chris Oliva, is commenting on some of our recent videos.
Or better known as Chris Oliva.
Could be better known as Chris Oliva. I'm gonna give some more shout outs on some of the people that are commenting. Chris Olivo. Sorry, Chris.
Okay, Chris, we apologize.
I'm going to add a new segment moving forward where we just give shout outs to people that are commenting on our videos.
And hopefully we do a better job of getting those last names correct.
All right, everybody, it's time to jump into some audience comments from YouTube. So let's give a shout out to some comments and answer some questions. First question I'm going to answer is from Greeny Green. Greeny Green, thanks for watching the show on YouTube. And you're asking, how do I feel about card breaks? Is it a good way to get cards, or is it a waste of time? Now, for me personally, don't love participating in breaks because I just believe that there's a lot of waste in cards. I think that there's a lot of basically just paper and cardboard or chromium stock that no one will ever do anything with, and it'll sit in a closet forever. I prefer to basically handpick what I want off of eBay or off of StarStock or off of social media from people who are selling cards, selling singles. So, part of this is because I live in Spain and it's harder for me to deal with receiving packages and opening packages and sifting through things. I'd much rather just buy a card that I want and ship it directly to my PWCC vault or to StarStock. I'm also into player prospecting, so I want to just go look through eBay and StarStock and look for the deal on the player that I want and just go ahead and pull trigger and not necessarily participate in a break or open a pack. I think opening packs and participating in breaks is a great part of the hobby, but I don't think it's a way to actually make money as an investor. So that's actually why I stay away from it. Stay away from the waste, focus on the cards that I want to buy and just go directly to them. That's just more fun for me. So I appreciate the question. Keep them coming. I also want to give a shout out to the following people who commented quite a bit in the past week. Chris Olivo, Trading Card Experience, Don Chownard, Tim Spivey, Graded Cards, and Nenad. Thanks so much, everybody, for participating, and feel free to join our Facebook group by going to sportscardstrategy.com. Click on the link to join the Facebook group, and you can be in tune with us throughout the week. And keep the comments coming on the YouTube videos. Really appreciate it. We have started a Facebook group, so if you go to sportscardstrategy.com, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel. You can click to join the Facebook group. I'm gonna start cutting up some of the intros of our shows, some of the banter. I'm gonna post it there because it doesn't get on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube. So some clips where you make fun of me for how I look, and I look like a pilot.
When have I ever done that? Hold on. I did do the air traffic controller, I think, last week with your brand new headphones and CB radio. I think you got going on now, right?
Yeah, and I think that the world needs to understand how funny you are, and your rants that may or may not have anything to do with sports cards, they'll go on the Facebook group.
Perfect. That's what we like.
Fun. Okay, Sports Card Strategy Show brought to you by NoOffSeason.com, sponsored by MarketMoversApp.com. By Sports Card Investor, use the promo code NOOFFSEASON, all lowercase, to save 20% there. We want to give a shout out to Vanity Slabs. Use the promo code NOOFFSEASON, all lowercase, to save 10% there. And of course, we always talk about StarStock, where you can use the promo code NOOFFSEASON, all lowercase, to get a free $10. So Murph, you said you wanted to hear about some of my recent sales. So I'm happy
because this is all about trying to make some money and having fun, Paul. So I think that the audience wants to hear about a couple of things and what you're doing to flip some cards in this, what is a rapidly moving business these days. It happens week to week, game to game. It's pretty quick. And it's interesting for me too, who doesn't have any modern day players. I don't own any of these cards. So it is interesting to find out what and how much these are moving. It's interesting to me. I hope it's interesting to the show audience.
Yeah, this is perfect. This is what I wanted to talk about today too, because I want to just kind of remind everybody. I think there's two unique things about our show, and one of them is what you just said, which is our ability to pick players. We started the show with the other one, which is, talking to guys like us who are just getting back into the hobby after 20, 30 some years. How do you get back in? How do you get started? What do you do with your old cards? So I think number one is player prospecting. Number two is what do you do with your old stuff? So it's like old stuff and new. I'm kind of at the point where I'm player prospecting. I've gone through all my old stuff. You've gone through all your old stuff, and you're going to move through all that. But we like to talk about player prospecting. So the uniqueness of our show right now is that we try to predict what's going to happen with certain players, buying them low and player prospecting, whose value is going to increase, and kind of using it like a stock market, like an active everyday stock market. So just a quick recap, some of the guys that I've been in on have included Desmond Bain, Tyrese Maxey. I've talked about Grayson Allen. I've been big on Anthony Edwards and LaMelo Ball. Those are more long-term guys. The Maxey, the Bain, and the Grayson Allen are more short-term flips. I'm not necessarily looking at holding those guys long-term. But I've sold. So I'll go through some of my recent sales. They include vintage cards. They include new cards that are flips. They kind of span across all sports. I've recently gone through and I've listed almost 200 of my cards on eBay, just as buy it now or make an offer.
123 of those images on Instagram.
God, and not to derail us too much, but my Instagram account just got deleted by Instagram. So at No Offseason Cards is no longer, and now to follow me, you got to follow me at Sports Card Strategy.
Thank you, Instagram.
I'm rebuilding my account.
It's a great place to go. He's still going to make sales. He's still going to post cards, and he's got a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of cool things there. Mix of a little vintage NBA with some modern day NBA, soccer, as well as the NFL.
So here are the sales, and
yeah. So what do you got?
I'm gonna point out a couple things as we go through this. I recently sold a 1988 Fleer Magic Johnson All-Star card, which was graded SGC 7. I sold it for $30. And the thing about this is, everyone's probably thinking, well, the grading fee for SGC is $30. That's correct. Here's the thing, though. When you grade a card, there is a market value for that card that can't really be debated. There are comps for that card. And so a card like a SGC 7 or maybe a PSA 8 of that card, like a PSA 6 of that card rather, or an SGC 7 of that card, what's way too high to pay for that and what's way too low to pay for that. And so as I list cards on eBay, and I think as most people list cards on eBay, I'm going to shoot for maybe trying to make 10 to 20 to 25% over what I paid for that card, right? Including the grading fee. But that doesn't mean that I'm always going to get it. And as I try to move through my collection of cards, which at this point is up around 600 cards that I'm looking to sell, I need to sort of take things where I can get them. And a sports betting strategy for daily fantasy sports and for poker is something called variance. You have to understand variance. Basically what this means is you have to understand where you're right and where you're wrong. And you have to sort of you have to bet on yourself in that if you can be right 70 to 80% of the time, you have to take your lumps when you're wrong 20 to 30% of the time and play the long game. And so on some of these sales,
you're just going to be a loser. You can't hold a bunch of them because you need capital. You need to be able to go and buy some winners, and that's what you're doing. And I think that's, whether or not it's the stock market, poker, or in sports cards, you need capital to go out and buy the 80%, 70% winner that you've been able to this point. And that's what you're doing. I think that's actually a really good thing to talk about on this show is, hey, I lost some money on this, but now I have capital to go buy some winners because I am right 70% of the time based on your data that you have.
Yeah, and you're a stock market guy, so I know you understand this concept, and I think it's something that I'm just starting to wrap my head around myself, because sometimes I'll get down in the dumps about like, oh, I didn't make it, I just broke even on that card, or maybe I lost 3 to 5% on that card, but then I realize, okay, I bought at the same time I sold a Tyrese Maxey for $139. I sold a Desmond Bain, that same day for $70. I didn't even pay half as much for those cards. Yeah, and then I have to look at things also. I have to compartmentalize a little bit in that on the Magic card, that was a card that I pulled out of a full set where really there wasn't much cost to that card. That was like, if anything, I turned that waste from a set, which would have just sat there, into an experience where I took a risk. I said, hey, maybe this could get an 8 or a 9 or an 8.5 or a 9, 9.5 from SGC. Well, it only got a 7, right? So had that card got an 8.5 or a 9 or a 9.5, I definitely would have profited on that card. So yep. while I took a loss,
if you broke the set, then I'm assuming that on many of the other cards that I saw from your posting was, that's a really good set with a lot of really good players in their prime or rookies. at that point. So you probably took a lot of 20-some really quality players, maybe even 20-some Hall of Famers. And overall, you're going to profit from that set. You just didn't from that card.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly right. So there's, Stockton rookie in there, Pippen rookie, and all that stuff in there.
Yeah.
Now, recently sold a Ja Morant PSA 10 for $76. That was a bit of a profit, probably about 20% profit on that one. That was a NBA Hoops Winter, which is not one of the more sought-after Ja Morant PSA 10s. Recently sold a Michael Jordan Fleer 1990 All-Star ungraded for $14.50. Recently sold 3 Anthony Edwards, Don Russ rated rookie SGC 9.5s for a total of $125.
Now, you've been really high on Anthony Edwards. What's that trajectory looking like right now, Hicks?
I think the Anthony Edwards floor from a player standpoint would be like an Andrew Wiggins. And if you look at Andrew Wiggins right now, that wouldn't be great compared to a lot of the people that have invested in Anthony Edwards. But I think the ceiling on an Anthony Edwards from a player standpoint is really more someone like a Dominique Wilkins. And that's where I think over time he ends up being like the face of a franchise, a guy who leads his team to the playoffs every year, has those highlight reel dunks, but can also put up 35 whenever he wants to. And his card prices have continued to go up.
That's great.
So what I'm doing with him though is I have so many of his that I'm looking to make, maybe if I can make 10 to 15% on the lower graded cards and the less, like a Don Russ rated rookie is not as sought after, then I'm going to do that.
But keep your sought after for your big profits and stuff like that. So it's not a bad thing. That's great.
And so along with the eBay strategy, I've started to do more I've done less auctions and I've done more buy it now listings always with the ability to make an offer. And I've started to package some lower graded cards together. Like I have about 10 Kylian Mbappe 2018 World Cup stickers that are graded by SGC. I think I have 4 of them that are 10s, and those are valued at around $300 a piece. I haven't listed any of those yet. I've listed, wow. I sold a pair of the 8s for $50 total. So that's an example of, like, on the Irvin Magic Johnson Fleer sale, it's the same thing. It's like I'm going to take 2 of those together, get $50 for them, take a little bit of a hit, but move off of that, get some of the money back in my bankroll so that I can bet on myself with some of the moves that I'm making with some other guys right now. So
I love it.
A couple of those guys
now recently, go ahead, Hicks. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say a couple of those guys that I'm betting on, and I want to get your take on this, are Darius Garland, some Prism PSA 10s, getting them for under $30 a piece, getting Gary Trent Jr. Prism PSA 10 rookies for under $30 a piece. Looking at a lot of Trevor Lawrence cards right now because his prices have gone down quite a bit. And actually picked up a couple Wander Franco cards. I know you're not as much into the MLB, but Wander Franco was the number 1 prospect who got called up by the Tampa Bay Rays in July, and he had something like a 50-some game on-base streak. He's only about 19 or 20, and he's a big slugger shortstop. And so his PSA 10s of his first Bowman have gone down under $100. They were over $150 during the MLB season. And so my thought is getting a couple of those, under the $100 mark, hoping that they can come up double that at some point during the baseball season. Just those are some of the plays I'm looking at. I've got some bids in on some of those. Not all of them have closed yet, But
Yeah.
just to give the audience an idea of where my head's at with some of those plays.
Well, I mean, I think that both of those moves, I mean, I'll just give a little commentary on a couple of those. I think the Franco move is great. I mean, if anything, the Rays have been able to prove that they are a team that can develop a farm system, draft guys, and ultimately, you know, get a lot of really good baseball out of them before, unfortunately, they lose to the larger market teams. But taking advantage of this just ultra quiet baseball time, right? I mean, there's no other sport where it just goes dark like baseball. I mean, right now, November through late January, if you pick up a guy like that who had a really good 50, 40 games, is on a perennial playoff team in Tampa, man, what a great call there, Hicks. And then the Trevor Lawrence, by the dip, he's on a bad team with a bad offensive line, with a bad NFL coach. I'm telling you, Trevor Lawrence is, if you can buy him on a bear market at a 30% dip or whatever you bought him at, I don't care what the card is, but you were buying 10s, right? PSA 10s?
Well, that's interesting because there's not really any PSA 10s of him just because of the PSA backlog. And so when you pull a Trevor Lawrence.
Or SGC 10s, or maybe you're buying the card. I mean,
yeah.
Fantastic buy on Trevor Lawrence. The guy is a can't miss. I mean, his floor is in my opinion, is Andrew Luck. That's the floor. Okay. And Andrew Luck was a pretty damn good NFL player, went to an AFC championship game, made the playoffs pretty much every year. That's the floor on a guy like Trevor Lawrence. So I think you made some good buys there. Great buy. I don't even know who the Franco guy is because I haven't gotten into base. When the Tigers start playing better, I will start watching baseball once again. But I just think what a great time to buy some really great players that were called up or had great seasons during this 3-month just dead zone of MLB. I think it was awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about the Trevor. I just spent like $7 on a Trevor Lawrence rated rookie in a Jags uniform, and I think I spent $30 on a jersey card. So it's not a serial numbered card, and it's not an autograph, but it is special in that it is a memorabilia card, and so that should definitely hold some value. And I agree with you on him, and I'm happy that you feel that way about him because I'd get a little leery if you didn't, because you're typically right on with these player predictions. So yeah, and then Gary Trent Jr. is just a flyer. You know, he's the starting shooting guard right now in Toronto. He's put up actually some really good performances on a team that they should be in the play-in tournament for the Eastern Conference.
At the end of the day, you're going to sell that card for a good amount of money to some 14-year-old in Winnipeg.
And they're going to feel happy about paying me $50 for it. I paid $20 for it. Everyone's going to win. They're probably going to be able to sell it for $90 later, and that's what I really like about what we're doing here.
Yeah, I like that call too. I mean, Toronto's got the money. They're an NBA champ. They got an active ownership group. They're going to try to they saw what kind of hype and what kind of backing the whole country will give a Toronto team if they're good. They'll do the same thing. If this guy's any good, you're gonna make some money.
He was a second-round draft pick, and he's looking like he should have been a top 10 pick. He played at Duke, so there's always that college fan base that could want to go after him. So there's a formula for who I look at, and you brought up in an earlier show that I should put it down in a sports card investor playbook type of situation where you put the formula down, you put the different layers of who to buy and what to buy down. You put a calendar for people that are really interested in doing this somewhat consistently in their lives if they're getting back into it, or if a parent happens to see our show and they see their 13, 14-year-old son or daughter doing the same thing, they can put together a playbook to understand when to buy, when not to, what to keep your eyes out for, top draft picks on bad teams playing well. Yep.
I mean, those are the hype goes up before the season, and then all of a sudden they're like, wow, the dude just threw 3 interceptions for the second straight game. Well, guess what? Peyton Manning threw a crap ton of interceptions his rookie year. Well, let's see what happened. So
yeah, Trevor Lawrence is he's in a pocket.
Great recipe to buy some low cards, some great players at a low price.
Yeah, and timing.
Like Russell Wilson right now would be a very interesting, good player to take a look at. I mean, Hall of Famer to take a look at as Seattle struggles, and he is struggling behind a just putrid offensive line. We talked superstars in the NBA the last time that we talked. They're not playing hard yet. They're not going to play hard. They'll have Christmas, and then they'll pack it in until mid-January. Great time to buy the superstar Hall of Famer veteran. And a great time to buy someone like Russell Wilson right now, because after a MVP type season last year, he's looking far from it now for good reason.
Yeah, that's a great call. I like that. I like where your head's at, and we do need to continue to bring up some of those type guys. My example on the younger side, Trevor Lawrence. Your example on the more seasoned side, Russell Wilson and veterans. And actually, that's a good segue into one topic I wanted to ask you about today. Should we be concerned about some of the other quarterbacks like Lamar? Dak had a really good start to the season. He has not looked consistent. He looked really bad in week, I guess, what was this, week 11 in the NFL?
Week 11.
Week 11, he looked bad. And same with Josh Allen. Josh Allen's been pretty bad. Kyler's been hurt. So, I mean, you got, Lamar and Kyler with injuries, right?
Yeah.
I'm not as concerned about those two. So want to get your take on what to do about them if you're looking to buy or sell or hold their cards. And then Dak and Josh Allen in a completely different situation. Like, if you have Dak and Josh Allen cards, first of all, you're like, should I have sold them a few weeks ago? But now, like, if you were looking to buy them, like, do you buy them now? What's your take on it?
The answer is no. I mean, if there is a dip, and I have 5 minutes left, so I think that you would be able to maybe go to Market Movers for the audience and take a look and see what's going on with some of those guys. But absolutely, you buy the dip on those guys. Lamar Jackson didn't get worse in the last 2 weeks. Josh Allen didn't get worse in the last 2 weeks. Now, he's looked awful. All right. I mean, it's been bad. But I think that the audience has to consider the new NFL. I mean, consider what you've got going. Can you just go at it for 16 weeks? I don't think so, because I don't think the incentive's there. You got an additional playoff game or additional playoff team. You've got an extra week in the NFL season. I don't know. I just think that you're 25, you're 26, you're getting beat to hell, you're traveling, you're practicing. In this new NFL with an added playoff team and one more week of the season, I just think you're going to have some clunkers. I mean, big-time clunkers, which is why I think it's really hard to pick on spreads right now, because of look what happened with the Titans yesterday. That was putrid. What happened with the Bills yesterday? Putrid. But I think as a card collector, I think you take advantage of it, because I'm not a huge Dak guy. Like, I don't think Dak's one of the top 8 quarterbacks in the NFL. I just don't. He's not Lamar Jackson. He doesn't transcend. He's not like Lamar. I said a few weeks ago, Lamar's the best player on the field every time he steps in the field, most of the time, unless he's on the field with maybe Mahomes and Brady, stuff like that. He's the best player. Dak just isn't that guy. He's a great player. He can get the ball to the guys that make plays. I'm not a huge Dak's going to go crazy on his price, but I think Lamar can. I think Josh Allen can. Holmes already does what he does. The Trevor Lawrence thing that we spoke about. The one that's interesting is the Jalen Hurts, and I talked about this a month or two ago, because I said the Eagles are a young team on both sides of the ball, and they're going to have these just massive roller coasters. They're going to look amazing, and then they're going to look like they don't even know what they're doing. I haven't figured out Jalen Hurts yet. Is he any good, or is the guy that couldn't keep the starting job at Alabama? I don't know. I just think it's interesting with Jalen Hurts right to add him into this conversation.
Yeah, and he's a great one to add into the conversation because he's by far the most affordable out of all of the guys that we've mentioned, including Trevor Lawrence. So
Yeah.
to get in on a Jalen Hurts, there's a lot of promise there. You
There
got to
is.
figure they're going to give him. They're going to give him a chance. Yeah, they're going to give him a chance.
You got rookies on the outside. You got rookies on the inside. I mean, and you got second, third year tight end. I mean, they're everywhere, which is why you're going to have roller coasters. I mean, at some point, Devonta Smith's going to hit a wall. Gainwell, was hurt. Quez didn't do anything yesterday. I mean, it's just these roller coasters for Jalen Hurts. He won't show consistency probably till about the middle of next year. And if you can buy him on a 30% dip, that's great. If Lamar is going down because the dude got hurt and they just looked awful in some games, buy it, right? Yeah. I mean, I just same thing with Josh Allen. Same thing. I just think the NFL right now, you're going to throw 2 to 3 weeks of straight clunker because these teams are like, shit, I'm 7-2. We're playing some bad teams. I don't know. I just think the 25, 26-year-olds like, we're going to be fine. We're going to win this game by 3. Who cares what the spread is? Let's move on. Problem is in the NFL, to Mike Vrabel's point the other day, you turn the ball over, and if you're playing a team in the NFL, you're going to lose the game.
Yeah.
You just are. And I think those clunkers are more apparent now than what they have been in the past. That's just my take.
So you talked about the Philadelphia Eagles a minute ago. I want to quickly segue into what we were wrong about. Me being wrong about, that is. Kenny Gainwell, Jalen Reagor. Should I be concerned? Because so far I've been wrong about my predictions.
Reagor, you're going to be
Gainwell.
wrong. Reagor, you're going to be wrong. I like Gainwell.
Okay.
But he's never going to be a guy that's going to touch the ball 15, 16 times a game. So that's always my concern. So you're always looking for the big play with somebody like Gainwell because he's just not that guy. He's not. He's kind of like a Chase Edmonds, right? You give him 18 times over 3 weeks, he's going to get hurt. Gainwell, I think, is the same way. So you're looking for the big play, for the card increase to happen. You want a guy that gets reps. And that's why I'm not a huge Gainwell guy. I mean, the Devonta Smith thing is great. I'm a big Quez guy, as you know. I think to this point you were a little bit wrong about, but I don't know, Hicks. I mean, Gainwell's he's a rookie, right?
Yeah.
Just hang on to it. You got nothing to lose. You paid peanuts for it, probably. Just wait until he makes a couple big plays in the play, or not in the playoffs because they won't be there. You got to hold on to it.
Here's the thing. This is my first real go-around in the sports card hobby with this stuff, and if this were fantasy football, I'd be a little concerned. But because I own the card, and I only paid $20 for the card, all I need to have happen is for Gainwell to get back in the lineup, score a couple touchdowns, and now all of a sudden I can move the card.
Move the card.
But if I dropped him on waivers because I needed a roster spot, then you lose.
Hey,
it's over.
I'm going to turn this over to you for the rest of the 30 minutes. I got to take my kiddos to school. But everyone out there, thanks for watching the show. Hicks, I always love you. This is a pleasure to do this every week. For the most part, we're doing it every week. Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Hey, happy Thanksgiving to you too, Murph. And thanks for doing this as well. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.
All right. See you guys. Happy collection.
All right. Thanks, Murph. So we'll talk about a few more things that Murph kind of teed us up for. Lamar Jackson, PSA 10, Don Russ rated rookie, is at a low right now as far as I have seen over the last several months, $114. So you can buy the dip on Lamar Jackson, get that PSA 10 for $114 if you want. That card has been as high as $150 during this season, and it should go back up that high if the Ravens continue to win when he comes back from injury. And if they make a playoff run, if they make it to the Super Bowl, that card should easily be over $200. So it could be a good time to get yourself a Lamar Jackson PSA 10. The Prism is going to run you quite a bit more than that, but the Donruss rated rookie or even the Optic is more sought after. So if you can get the Optic PSA 10 of Lamar Jackson's rookie card for a similar price as the Donruss rated rookie PSA 10, I would go Optic. Another StarStock buy that I can throw your way right now is Fernando Tatis Jr. So the 2019 Topps paper rookie PSA 10 of Fernando Tatis Jr. is right around $115 right now on StarStock. If you use the promo code no offseason all lowercase when you sign up, you'll get a free $10, and you could use it towards any number of good buys, that being one of them, because that card, like the Wander Franco that I mentioned early in the episode, should rise above $150 during the MLB season. So it's a good time to buy Fernando Tatis Jr. on StarStock and Lamar Jackson on StarStock. Coming up in the show, we're going to have Kendall McKee from Wild Cards Box Breaks and JustBaseball.com to talk a little bit more baseball. I want to talk to him about the top prospects, key off-season movements that we should be looking forward to have impact in the sports card hobby. And we're just going to get into some sleeper plays and buy lows with Kendall McKee. So I'm looking forward to that.
What's up?
Hey, what's up, Kendall? How you doing, man?
Man, good. How are you?
Doing well, thanks.
I thought I would mirror your pilot headset with mine. So
yours looks way better than mine. I'm gonna need to get some slimmer
just make some radio calls just to the tower.
Yeah.
How are we doing?
Yeah, that's right. Flight 7382, you're cleared for takeoff.
Hey, you even got it. You even sound good. You guys sit back and relax and have a good flight.
That's right. Be safe out there. Weather's a little rainy, a little cloudy, but hopefully your visibility will improve. Just call if you need anything. Over and out.
I love it.
So what's up with you, man? Appreciate your taking some time out today.
Dude, no, it's good. I'm glad that I am excited to be on your show. So it's not like, don't feel like this is a burden for me. This is a gift. I'm excited. Okay. So it's Thanksgiving week here. My family's here. We're ready to rock and roll and eat some turkey, watch some football. Yeah, so I have the week off. So I'm just chilling.
Cool. All right, well let's get into it. I'm ready to talk some baseball.
Dude, that is my specialty. So
cool. So everybody, we've got Kendall McKee from Wild Cards Box Breaks. Check out the Facebook group. You can search Wild Cards Box Breaks on Facebook, but I'm going to drop the link everywhere. And we'd love to see you there. And Kendall also writes for JustBaseball.com. So he's a baseball expert, sports cards expert, all sports, but baseball, I think it's safe to say it's your favorite. Is that right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I love baseball. I've loved baseball cards since I was a kid, and I just got back into baseball cards pretty hardcore in the past year. So I need some help on the show. I've got some questions for you today. You are very knowledgeable when it comes to, you break. Well, actually, why don't you start off by telling us kind of what do you break over at Wild Cards Box Breaks in terms of baseball specifically? Like what are the things you like to break, and what do you break a lot of over there?
Yeah, so baseball cards have primarily been the flagship for me going just throughout my life. Not even recently, but just throughout my life, they've been something that I've always gravitated towards. Baseball was my primary sport when I was playing. I went on literally anything. If anybody had asked me between like the ages of 0 and even like 15, what I wanted to do when I grow up, I wanted to be a Texas Ranger. Every year it was like, I'm going to be a professional baseball player, and I couldn't hit a curveball. So that didn't really go well for me, but, so I always loved, baseball and cards. But what we're breaking on our site, which we would love to have any and all of you guys out there, we're not just baseball. Our group is leaning more baseball in terms of the people that are in there right now, because a lot of our people have found us through the Just Baseball site. But we do break football and basketball, and we're looking towards breaking some soccer as well, which that's my second favorite. Like basketball and football are really marketable, but like soccer is what I really want to do. So if you can pull any people from your soccer world out there,
man,
that would be awesome.
I might have to send you some. I might have to send you some product to break.
Yes.
I've got some Premier League product and some La Liga. So I don't know if you'd be interested in that, but
yeah. Everton's that's my club. So I've loved them since like 2010 when I started watching the Premier League. It was like the first time it came on TV from where I was, and I just started watching Everton because, of course, Tim Howard was on the team. But yeah, what products we break right now primarily in baseball, or we break several different products, but we have one of them that's a flagship product for us that literally fills faster than anything else, and we always get good hits out of it. It's just the Bowman series, whether that's Bowman or 2021 Bowman, which came out last in like February or so. We're still breaking that. We break hobbies of that and blasters of that. Actually, the blasters typically have a good run of product variation as well. It's not just the hobby products that you're searching for in that product, which sometimes can get like that in other products where it's like hobby or nothing, but then we also recently have been breaking 21 Bowman Chrome, which is kind of an updated series. It's the end of the year version of the Bowman 21 set. And it has a lot of firsts in it of international signings that signed in the summer. And then something that we're about to really, really break into like 100 miles per hour is the Bowman draft that comes out in December. And that's all the players that were drafted in the first year player draft in June.
Okay. That's awesome. So I'm sure you guys are gonna be promoting when you get those in, and that's gonna be a big thing for you. I'd love to get involved in some of that. Break it down real quick. Who would the top hits be out of that product? I know the Red Sox take a shortstop 4th overall. Oh, yeah. Is he gonna be the guy?
So he fell nicely to them. But my favorite guy, and this is showing my extreme bias right now, but I am all in on Leiter. Number 2 pick, okay. Rangers. That's my squad. Like I might end up buying the Rangers in every break. So if you're a Rangers guy, like you're going to have to beat me to my own break. But no, that's kind of a joke. But I am all in on Jack Leiter. His dad Al was a major leaguer as well. And then the shortstops are incredible in this product. And man, I'm not kidding you. And sometimes it feels like every set feels like this, but this might be one of those products that you stash and it just continues to go up, because marketable players in the major leagues typically are up the middle players, whether that's, the products that sell really well are shortstop, center field, or catalytic, media driven players. So like Harper and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about, I'm definitely excited about some of those guys that you were just mentioning taken in the 2021 draft, but I also wanted to ask you about like the top 100 right now in terms of prospects.
Yes.
So, guys that you can kind of laugh at my strategy, but as I was watching the Futures game back in July, I was on StarStock, and I literally, like everyone who hit a home run, I just bought their Bowman.
Yeah,
immediately did it. Like as I was watching the game live. So yeah. good or bad strategy there. I'm on StarStock, and that's how I just started to get into the singles in the baseball prospecting. I don't know if that was
who'd
good
you
or
end up
bad.
buying?
Well, so I got
Tell me you got some Brennan Davis.
I got Brennan Davis, yeah.
Yes!
I got Brennan Davis. I got Michael Toglia,
Rockies.
Yep. I got Jose Barrero, who I was listening to the broadcast, and they were saying his name as a rookie was Jose Adolis Garcia, and so I got the correct Jose Adolis Garcia. Nolan Gorman.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Nolan. Yeah. Yeah.
Adley Rutschman.
Rutschman.
And then some guys who I already had that I may or may not have bought more of during the futures game because I was excited about them are I grew up a Tigers fan. I'm still a Tigers fan. So,
Okay.
of course, Riley Green and Spencer Torkelson. Those are the two guys that I've loaded up on them in general. But and then I don't know, like a guy named Garrett Mitchell, because I'm a Nashville Sounds fan, and he's in the Brewers organization.
Yep.
So that was my strategy, and it continues to be my strategy. Basically, is like looking at the top 100 list and listening to a few podcasts and trying to understand like who might get moved up or who might get some hype in the future. And then basically going to StarStock and seeing what their singles are in the Bowman, just because I don't know as much about how to get the correct rookie baseball cards. And I know that StarStock is rookies only, that sort of thing. But anyway, talk about if you think I'm doing it okay in terms of my strategy. And then I want to get into like who on the list you think is a good buy right now and why.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let me ask you a precursor question before I dive into this. When you're buying those cards, are you buying rookie cards? Are you buying Bowmans? Are you buying Bowman Chromes? Are you buying their first? Are you buying autos? What are you typically looking for?
If a Bowman first auto is available and in a price point that I feel comfortable with, or something that differentiates it, like a refractor or something, I'll go for those. But honestly, primarily it's the Bowman first, just paper Bowman Chrome first prospect cards. Basically, is what I'm going after.
Okay, so that gives me a good foundation to start from. Basically, you've done it correctly. To some, I think you could be like slightly nuanced and make a lot more return, because the guys that you mentioned, honestly, are already. Okay, I'm going to say this with a little grain of salt, but I think the guys the guys you just named, are overbought already.
Gotcha.
They're almost to the point where you need to be looking deeper than that. Now, some of them are going to be so good, it doesn't matter. And I would say keep hammering that, but for instance, Riley Green, you mentioned him. He is, if you're looking for potential return, now, if you're a collector and you're wanting to just have like a really great looking cards and like, something that you can always be like, dang, I've got a Riley Green Bowman Chrome auto first, it's going to be so sick, then go ahead and do that. If you're an investor looking at potential return and like the flip and the X return on that and all that kind of stuff, which is typically where I typically land on looking for maybe like diamonds in the rough that I know are going to be potentially top 10 someday that are going to have the X return on it. Then I dig deeper than that, because Riley Green's numbers are already like he's a good major leaguer, which I think he will be. I think Riley Green is a stud, and we've seen that. And I think it's hard to argue, even though this sounds outlandish, it's hard to argue which one is better, him or Torque. And that is saying a lot for him. That's saying a lot for Riley, but I believe that. But there is still the chance that he doesn't do well in the majors. He still hasn't reached that cusp yet. And so there is still a degree of skepticism where you have to hedge your bet a little bit. And I think Riley Green is so expensive right now because he's going to be great. But to be fair, he hasn't hit the field yet. And everybody thought Kelenic was just going to blow out of the cannon. And he came out and he struggled for a couple months. And, in September, he was one of the best rookies in the game. So I'm still buying Kelenic, and I haven't sold off my collection of him either. But what I'm saying is, if you buy Riley Green now, he comes out in April and stumbles throughout the gate, people are all of a sudden just going to be like, oh, man, this guy's not for real, because they all expect him to come out and be, Fernando Tatis, or all of a sudden hit the majors and all of a sudden was just exploding, And so I would go a little bit cheaper on prospects, but you're buying the right cards, I think.
Okay.
And all the guys that you said are guys that I have in my personal, my investment portfolio. So
Yeah, that's a great analysis because that's the mistake I made really in all sports when I first got back into the hobby. Back in February of this year, the mistake I made was basically I looked at who was hot and I bought it, not really realizing like that's overpaying for it. And then, I quickly have been able to tweak my approach in sports that I'm more knowledgeable in, like basketball and football. So, for example, scouting guys like Tyrese Maxey and Grayson Allen, and scouting guys on the football side, like getting a guy like Kadarius Toney and Rashad Bateman, like basically when they were injured and no one was paying attention to them, and then when they come back on the field, that's when I sell them. So what I want to do is that in baseball, and basically what you're saying is I need to do a better, and that's why I'm glad to have you on the show, because I want to be able to provide the most value to the audience. If I were to sit here and talk about baseball and naming those guys, I'd be misleading people. So how do we find how do we either buy the dip on guys, if that even exists in baseball, or how do we, to your point, dig deeper on a prospect rather than the obvious ones before they break out? And feel free to throw out some of those names as examples that you're guys that you're looking at.
So I'm going to give a little shameless plug here to justbaseball.com. Something that we're doing that's a lot different than what other people are doing in the hobby right now. And I'm specifically referencing to the card side of things, but justbaseball.com does not only, it's only one of the verticals is collectibles. The rest of them are minor leagues, major leagues, college baseball. We cover all facets of the game. But something that's specifically unique about our collectibles department versus some potential other media sites is we are passionate about sports cards, but we're also really passionate about scouting. And most of our guys come from minor league scouting departments. We have like 15 to 20 guys, and we have some guys that are GMs in the Cape Cod League. We have guys that work in minor league farm systems in Major League Baseball. We have guys that have worked for the Marlins. We have guys that worked for the Yankees. And so it's guys that know what to look for before their top 10 candidates. And what is perfect for that is you mirror that knowledge with a knowledge of sports cards, and all of a sudden you're finding Bowman Chromes out there of guys that nobody really knows of yet, and then you're buying them. For instance, I'll just give you my hot number one name that I'm buying right now. I have literally bought 17 cards of his autos in the past 2 weeks. Okay, so 17 autos of this guy, Bowman Chrome first autos in the last 2 weeks of Austin Shenton. This guy went from the Mariners to the Rays in a trade for a reliever, and everybody in the Mariners system was like, this guy hits, but he doesn't have a defensive position. Well, here's another little tidbit, Paul. If Tampa Bay wants your prospect, you don't want to give him up. Like there is like 2 or 3 teams in baseball. If they want your guy, that they're like, hey, just throw this guy in. That guy's going to be a stud major leaguer. And so this goes a little bit beyond that, but I have bought an average of $11 per auto on Austin Shenton in the past 2 weeks. And I've gotten 2 PSA 10s for under $50. And
that's amazing. That's amazing.
Very, very candid. I'm being super honest with you, and I'm not trying to just inflate Austin Shenton here. But what I am trying to do is say there's guys way off the top 100 list that have the metrics that you look for that are going to be good major leaguers. And I believe that if he finds a defensive position, I mean, that is a riskier play than Riley Green, I think, but it's a different kind of risk. You have a risk that Austin Shenton might not make it to the major leagues, but a lot of baseball, this is another unique thing about baseball card trading that I've noticed. And I collect all the sports just like you do, but my specialization is in baseball. But what I've noticed is that people that don't, let me try to figure out how to say this. I think marginal baseball investors enjoy Topps and enjoy the Series 1, the Series 2, the rookie cards. And if it has the RC next to it, they're like, that's the card I want. But if you're a true baseball investor, you need to go deeper than that, because the rookie card is not the premier card that you want. You know, like in football, you want that rated rookie or something like that of Lamar Jackson in a PSA 10 or something like that. And I could be wrong there because that's not my expertise. But I'm just saying, like, you want the card when he first hits his major league uniform. You know, and I have some of like the Clemson Trevor Lawrence cards that aren't as valuable as like potentially as Jaguars Trevor Lawrence card. Well, that is switched in baseball. Like his Bowman cards or whoever it is, their Bowman first card is going to be the most valuable because that's the first one to hit the market. For instance, here's another guy, O'Neal Cruz from the Pittsburgh Pirates. Let me just preface this. The Pittsburgh Pirates system is loaded with buys. Loaded. Nick Gonzalez, that guy is literally going, in my opinion, this might sound like a hot take, but I think he's going to win an MVP someday. Nick Gonzalez, I've been buying him recently.
Awesome.
So please go out and buy Nick Gonzalez and have no fear. Like that guy is a bona fide Major League All-Star. But for instance, O'Neal Cruz, very, very strange mix-up. He's a middle infielder right now, but he's like almost 7 feet tall. Like he's just a very unorthodox player, but his exit velocities are 120 miles per hour. Like, okay, that is true. There is one major leaguer that reached 120 miles per hour exit velocity, and that's Giancarlo Stanton.
Okay.
You have a skinny frame, 7 foot tall shortstop whose exit velocity is 120 miles per hour. You can't fake that, Paul. Like that is skill. You know, so you've got guys like O'Neal Cruz, but his first Bowman card was in 2016.
Okay.
You know, so it's just like you have to dig back for that, you know. So anyway, there you go. That's a little bit of stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing. And this is exactly why I wanted to have you on the show. And I'd love it if you continue to come back on the show because you've got me Googling and you've got me doing some research. And the first thing that I start to think of is how can I take this knowledge that I'm getting from you today in terms of like, look generally for like sluggers, middle infielders, outfielders, obviously. I mean, and yeah, they're in the minors, so you know their positions are going to change most likely as they try to work their way up to the major leagues. How can I reverse engineer this and come up with a process? Reading justbaseball.com, phenomenal. I used to read Baseball Weekly when I was a kid, and that's how I knew all the minor leaguers. You know, that's how I knew all the top prospects. And so you're kind of giving me like a throwback to like a throwback tip, right? Which I love. So I'm definitely going to do that, and I encourage the audience to do that. But do you have a process as you're prospecting from a Bowman Chrome first standpoint on guys? I have to imagine that you're like me where you'll throughout your week when you have maybe 5 to 10 minutes of downtime here and there, you're jumping on either eBay or some kind of marketplace and trying to see, you know, is there a deal on a guy? Like you mentioned getting Austin Shenton, I think a couple PSA 10s of him for under $50 total. So I'd imagine like you've built this process, right? So like how do I generally do that for baseball? Like do I look at do I read something about a guy, bookmark it, do a little bit of research later? Is it that kind of thing, or is it looking at cards that are underpriced and then going and saying, okay, well he's this position and research do you research? Do you find the player and then look into the cards, or do you look at the card prices and then look into the player?
For us, we find the player and then look into the cards. There's actually, at Just Baseball in our collectibles department, we have a podcast that we do every week that we're releasing on YouTube, and it's actually just started. And so, you know, we're in the beginning processes of that, but we give buys and sells every week and stuff like that. But when we put our data together and we pull that through from from all different sabermetrics and stuff, we have what we're calling a Just Baseball score. And that's like what our buy is. And, you know, I kind of want to keep that in house, to be fair.
Yeah, of course.
But
that's awesome though.
But what I do say is we have this Just Baseball score, and these guys, there's guys that are very obvious that are ranking on the Just Baseball score that you're like, okay, that's great. And then there's guys like Austin Shenton that are up there that you're like, who is that? And then there's also guys that are not on the Just Baseball or the JB Plus, or is what we call it. That's our sabermetric little logo, the JB Plus. So there's guys on there that are not on there that are being bought like crazy, and so we avoid those guys. And so Bobby Witt Jr., Julio Rodriguez, those dudes are studs. Keep buying them, like if you can. Now, some of them are really high. Bobby Witt Jr. PSA 10 is like 1,700 or something like that. Like, if I had the money, I would still buy that because I do believe that much in Witt. But there's other guys down there. Luciano is incredible. That dude's got like standing around the ball field, you hear the crack of his bat, you look over. It's different than if another player is hitting. And so. But what I would say is I do not typically look at the position. I look at the makeup of the player because one thing that's specific about baseball is hitting plays. They find a spot for you. Like you see guy like Pujols. He was on the Dodgers pretty much all year. The guy's terrible at defending. Yep. Now, obviously, Pujols is a different. That's you're gonna find a spot for a Hall of Famer. That's a little bit different. But there are guys out there that defensively, baseball is becoming more and more an offensive game. And if a guy has like a place that he maybe doesn't excel in defensively, he's still gonna be on a roster because he just mashes. And so what you don't necessarily want to look for, and I hate this about card trading. This is my number one hate about baseball card trading, is that pitchers aren't valuable.
Yeah.
Because I love the art of pitching, and I love, for instance, Owen White. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. Owen White was the Arizona Fall League Pitcher of the Year, and he's a Texas Ranger. Okay. So he came out and he just literally blew away. I don't know how much you know about the Arizona Fall League, but basically it's like the top 50 prospects came and all played in a short season together. So it's not like he's blowing away, single A or rookie ball pitcher or hitters. This guy literally took the best of the best, Brennan Davis, Nick Gonzalez, or Brennan wasn't in there, but Bryson Stott, who's the shortstop for the Phillies, like these are guys that are going to be very good major leaguers. JJ Bleday, and he's just striking them out like crazy. Had like an under 2 ERA in his 6 starts and had 5 wins. And his card I just bought for $1.79.
Will you make a return on that? Like when you buy that, you're obviously like, man, I'd spend $1.79 easily on anything in the world. Why wouldn't I spend it on this guy's card, right? So, and like, I think my Brennan Davis cards, for example, I might have paid a couple bucks for them when I bought them. So what are you expecting to get back from a card like that? And then, sorry to interrupt you on the pitcher because I'm totally tracking with you, and I want you to finish your thought on the pitching side of things. But why so low, and will there be room for profit on that for you?
The short answer is yes, I think. There's always room for stud baseball players to make profit if you get in beforehand. Like if you were to look at people are always buying Nolan Ryan cards. You go to any card show out there and there's PSA and Beckett stuff, graded Nolan Ryan cards.
Yeah.
And one of the best 90s baseball, if you look at like the early 90s or in late 80s, that Randy Johnson Expos card is really popular. So it's like, it's not that pitchers aren't traded, and that's not really what I'm saying, but in terms of X return, you're not getting the amount of upside on a pitcher that you are a hitter. And I think that's because I think it's a couple of things. One, our game is not necessarily geared towards pitchers right now. Like our game marketed is for the hitters. Like we have a home run derby. We don't have a strikeout derby. People want to see the long ball. And the more that this game changes into like a media first type thing, pitching is an art form. Like, you really have to enjoy the art of baseball to really look at a pitcher and know, wow, that guy is killing it tonight.
Yeah,
You know, like,
that's true.
and you don't have to know baseball at all to watch Pete Alonso get up there and absolutely mash a ball and be like, whoa, that dude is probably pretty good. You know, like, but there are some differences to that. But with Owen White, for instance, I do think there will be a return on that $1.79 card. And I bought his Bowman Chrome Auto for $13 last week. You know, and so it's like, that's okay. But if I'm looking at a $13 card and I could buy Austin Shenton at 11 and Owen White at 13, and I'm not a Rangers fan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I bought Owen White because I'm a Rangers fan. And because I'm like, oh man, we've never had good pitching. So one good pitcher, I'm like, heck, I'm buying his cards, you know. And so I'll probably be buying a lot of Rangers pitchers just personally, with Cole Winn and Jack Leiter and them coming up. But anyway, that side thing.
No, it's good to know that there's always a market. That's the thing about sports cards that I've been excited about, is that there's always a market for a card. You've got the fan, you've got the collector, and then you've got the investor. And so I think the best way of putting it to me would be, it sounds like fans and collectors might be more into pitchers, especially on the baseball side.
Absolutely.
Whereas investors are definitely going to be more interested. If they're looking to make money on it, then they're going to be more interested in the sluggers. But to your point, if you're kind of a mix of all three, and you can find a pitcher that you're excited about in your team's system, then you know that kind of checks all boxes, and you know you might, even if then maybe you don't care the money that you're spending on it, and it could just be a PC piece.
Yeah, and that's kind of how Owen White was for me. But there's one pitcher that I invested in this year out of all of the cards that I bought this year in my investment tracking portfolio. Only one of them was a pitcher, and that was Joe Ryan before he got up with the Minnesota Twins. I believed in him coming out of Tampa Bay, and I was like, okay, I'm going to get some of his stuff so when he comes into the major leagues, people have rarely ever heard of him. So when he does get up and people start being like, wow, this guy's blowing away hitters, I can make a return on that. So it does happen, but it's very rare, considering I probably invested in hundreds of sluggers this year and one pitcher, you know. So
yeah. So I didn't prep you for this question, but you made me think of it. So just do the best
these
job
are my favorite kinds.
You made me think of something that I've been working on building for myself, which is just basically an investment strategy, right? Like how if you play daily fantasy sports and you're actually good at daily fantasy sports, then you know what I'm talking about. It's like, what's your bankroll strategy? What type of variance are you going to be okay with? And essentially, like, how often are you going to play? That sort of thing. So when you talk about who you invested in, right, you made me think of asking you, like, can you break down just, you don't have to get into the details unless you want to, but at a high level, do you have an investment strategy? Meaning, do you sit down at any point in the year and say, okay, heading into this time period, I'm going to spend X amount of dollars, and here's what I'm going to look. I'm going to look for these things. And do you try to stay disciplined as a sports card investor? I would imagine that this would apply to you more so being a baseball analytics guy. I would think that this would be like a natural frame of mind for you, but I mean, maybe not. How do you approach that?
So the longer that I'm in the hobby, the more I want that, the more I desire what, you know, can I take the emotions out of it, and can I make a play on something that I know is not going to be an emotional element, but is like a statistical, analytical, this guy's going to match even if I don't like him, you know, like, is this guy going to make us money? You know, what are our buys? And I think I have a very loose section right now, but going into 2022, that's going to be a big change for me, is going into like, hey, this almost like a, have you ever heard of like, do you know who Dave Ramsey is? You're from Nashville, right? So like Dave is like very much like, if the envelope system, like if you're out of money in the envelope, you don't buy anything else, you know? And so I at one way I do want to be that sort of disciplined, But in another way, man, like if there's ever a Bowman Chrome auto that fits in and it's under $25, I'm probably gonna snag it. Like so.
Yeah.
It's a loose framework for me, and I think there are sections of time where I do buy more than others. I try not to buy in March and April because typically people go frenzy in March and April.
Yeah. Super hype, right? It's just that's when everyone is hype about baseball.
Really, really, really want to have your positions already set in March and April, unless it's a guy that you know is on a backfield somewhere and is going to make like you don't want to invest in Riley Green in March. Right. Like that's probably when you want to sell Riley Green. You want to sell Julio Rodriguez in March. So I'm picking him up all year this year, so it's just like there is a sort of system to it, but if I'm honest, I have not been in it long enough to have a year over year over year system. And that's really what I desire to have is more of a strategy.
Yeah.
But I have strategies to buy, but not, and when to buy, but not how much yet. And the more I go into it, the more of that'll be finalized.
Yeah, I'm the same exact way. I desire to have it all written out for myself and to share with others. And I wanted to include like an expected return on investment and then a profile. I think more than anything, like what I've established is a certain profile that makes sense in my head for a player and a card and a grade or a brand of a grading company or an auto, and like some qualifications of the card and then a profile of the player and then a price point, right? Like I think that's kind of what you and I are saying. And then, but that really is like we're still like in the feel. We're still like buying based on feel. We just have like these qualifications to let us know whether or not we're going to feel good or bad about it. And then if we feel good enough about it, then we buy it. And so I kind of want to take that to the next level and be like, okay.
Yeah, and I think
but you're right. You need to be in it. I think you made a good point. Like you need to be in it long enough, and then you need to basically look at your historical data and then build your model based on sort of how well you did based on your good feel, and then you need to check yourself, right? I mean, I think that needs to be part of it.
And that's where that JB Plus is coming in for us. Like that's what we wanted to finalize with that. We wanted to take historical data and say, okay, this, the prospects that we have seen 10 years ago that no one heard of, and all of a sudden they exploded in the major leagues. How can you look through and kind of dig around in the single A and double A, and find those guys before they come in and pop off, how can you get ahead of a Yerman Mercedes, or is that even possible? And because Yerman Mercedes grew 3,000% in the first 3 days of the major league season last year. And so it's just like, of course, you're not going to have a rookie that nobody's heard of come in and go 12 for 12 straight out of the gate. That's not going to happen all the time. But at the same time, if you knew that Yerman Mercedes had a bat that he was capable of, you could have made some serious money there. So that's where that JB Plus is coming in. So finding those guys that aren't necessarily, on that. And that's what we're doing every week on the Cardboard Connection show on YouTube. And so I'd love to have you on that as well, just to get you more involved there. And I also want to say, Paul, like if you ever have any of those questions, feel free to reach out to me. You are kind of in the inner fold with me, so
I appreciate that, man. It's super fun. I'm definitely gonna be WhatsApping you more often, emailing you more often, because I'm at a point in my life where I'm just sort of always yearning for this kind of talk. And so we had it on the show today. We'll have it on the show again. I'll be happy to join anything that you've got going on. I think I do enjoy baseball. I'm gonna be digging in to more baseball. But I will say that I've been watching as many NBA games as I possibly can. I think my main passion.
Please tell me you saw last night.
Which one?
The Stewart getting bloody with LeBron.
Yes, of course the Pistons. That's my team. And
I know. That's why I was like, please tell me you saw that.
Yeah, for sure. So that was incredible.
Was that like
Of
7
course,
a.m. for you or something like that?
yeah, it's yeah, exactly. It was. I was like I wake up at like 3 or 4 every once in a while, just randomly, and then I'll forget and I'll like check NFL.com or NBA.com, and I'm looking for the recap, but the game's still going on, so that still throws me off. But yeah, at least I got a championship ring against those Lakers from 2003, 2004. So
yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you have it with you in Spain?
No, it's actually back in Tennessee. It's
Dang, I wanted to see that.
Yeah, I'll have to flash it one of these days. But,
yeah, just don't even say anything. Just like, just scratch your head, and all of a sudden everyone's like, "Oh my god!"
Hey, how's it going, guys? But yeah, I'd love to add. I think my scouting on the NBA and on the NFL side of things, just from my fantasy football background, is definitely stronger than baseball. Baseball, you've inspired me to do some more research, to go to justbaseball.com, and to keep staying in touch. So, hey, I got one more question for you before I let you go, and thanks again for staying this long on the show.
Sure.
Where do you buy your baseball cards? Like, I have to imagine that you've had good experiences in a lot of different places, but that there are some more economical places for you to find the cards that you want at the price point that you want, where you can make money in the future. For baseball cards, like, what do you recommend?
I have 2 ways that I buy things. And a lot of people are like, "Oh yeah, shows are what you do." And man, I always feel like I get overplayed at shows all the time, because they only typically have not what I'm looking for, if that makes sense, because I dive deeper than usually what they have. Usually they have the guys that what we talked about at the very beginning, they have those guys ready and available at shows.
Yep.
So I buy it on eBay. I don't think it's a perfect solution, but I think it's a really good solution. At Just Baseball, we are talking with eBay to be, in some partnerships with them, and seeing if we can work that out in the future. But what they've done is they're really growing their collectibles department. I don't know if you know their collectors beta that's going on right now.
Yeah, I've heard about it.
Yeah, it's going to be really cool. Like, the cooler that the more eBay really looks at, like, this is really popping off on our app. How can we keep it here? I think that's growing. So I am a fan of eBay, even though a lot of people call it Feebay. But my second primary way of buying cards is in Facebook groups. And I join Facebook groups that are specific to what I am trying to look for. For instance, I have some of them that I'm in for sports cards in general. Some of them are regional, like the Lexington area. That's where I'm from. And so there are others that I've found that it's literally like, I literally am a part of a group called Bowman Chrome. People are literally only looking for this, and it's a lot easier. And so a lot of those Facebook pages I've been really, really happy with. And a lot of people don't put a lot of trust in that. And I've done hundreds of transactions at this point. And I've never, ever had an issue. Not one time. So
that's valuable, because I think a lot of people, I hope a lot of people are going to hear this interview, and they're going to get inspired to buy some Bowman Chrome, Bowman First Chrome, and they're going to see how much it is to get into, to even try to acquire either a box or to get into a break or something. And so to be able to then try to get the player they want is going to become more expensive. But if they can go to a place like you're talking, once they find maybe their own Austin Shenton, for example, and they're trying to search for that player, that's good advice to, knowing that you can find it on eBay, knowing that you can get specific with your searches on Facebook groups and ask people and post in these groups for what you're looking for. My experience is that is very good in Facebook groups as well. So good to know that that's the case for you. And it may not be the most efficient thing, but if you're doing it
I
for
will
fun,
say that. Like, I will say it's pretty frustrating sometimes, but not in a just like in a way of like nobody has what I have or what I want,
Nobody has what I want, and I'm not sure if I'm going to get a response or when I'm going to get a response. Whereas,
Sure.
like, being able to go onto somewhere like StarStock, you can just type in the player's name and you can see if they have. But again,
But you're
like
also going to pay more that way too.
You're going to pay a lot more. Yeah, you are going to pay a lot more. I mean, StarStock is not the best place for finding the best deal, and
but it's right there.
If it's right there, it's all that balance of like how much time do you have, how much do you enjoy
Right.
it, and
Now
how much do you really
bought
want to
some
profit.
cards off of ComC.
Okay.
That I'm intrigued there. I wouldn't say that I'm ready to like promote that, so I'm already I guess promoting it just by bringing it up. But that's on my watch list, I guess, for buys.
That's a good one that I
ComC.
always forget about too. I might need to go back to ComC and see what they. I haven't bought anything off of ComC, but
the only reason I bring it up is because sometimes I find eBay listings that are the cheapest option of the ComC listing is the cheapest option, and typically it's like the shipping is the most delayed. So if you're trying to make a quick flip, don't do that. But if you're trying to make a long play and it's a little, like a couple bucks cheaper, why don't you go ahead and do that?
Yeah,
All
for
right,
sure.
Paul, I
Good
saved
stuff, man.
I saved one name for you from the very end.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, look, this is a very speculative play.
I love it.
Big risk, big reward here. Okay. And most of the guys are going to be like, don't buy this card. But I'm just saying, I bought one.
Okay.
I bought one of this guy, Lolo Sanchez.
Hey, I'm Googling the name.
I don't know if you can see it right here.
We can see it. Looking
Bowman
good. Okay,
Chrome
so
Auto, Lolo Sanchez in the
it's a
Pirates
good looking
system.
card, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I like that
So
card. I'm pulling him up right now.
Look at his WRC plus from his minor league system this year. WRC plus is obviously a sabermetrics, but he had a good year in the system, and the system is already stacked. So I'm like, okay, what are they going to do with him if he gets traded and all of a sudden he pops off at another place? Like, hey yo. Anyway, it's a long play and it's a very speculative play, but I got this card for $6. So there you go.
I love it. Thank you for saving that for last. I'm going to be looking into all these guys that you've thrown out here today. This has been super valuable for me, and I know it will be for the audience. So thanks again, Kendall. Good talking to you, man.
Absolutely, Paul.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Go Pistons, right?
That's right. Go Pistons. Let's go Cade Cunningham, baby.
Let's go. All right, man. I'll see you later.
All right, everybody. That was Kendall McKee with Wild Cards Box Breaks on Facebook and justbaseball.com. Kendall, amazing job today. We're also going to talk to Craig Conway of Vanity Slabs. He's the COO of Vanity Slabs. Those guys will be joining us a little bit later, and we'll cut to them. All right. I'm here with Craig Conway, the COO of Vanity Slabs. So if you go to vanityslabs.com, you can see all the awesome products that they have there. And if you use the promo code no offseason, all lowercase, you can save 10%. So we would both love for you to do that if you're interested. One of the things that really caught my eye about Vanity Slabs is they don't just sell your typical holders. They're actually multi-audience driven. I can see Vanity Slabs being really intriguing to not only the collector who wants to display their PC, elevate the display of their PC, but also to kind of the sports card entrepreneur who has a brand or who is trying to build a sports card brand and essentially wants to present the card with their own logo on it in a slab. And so I think that Vanity Slabs, to me, is the number one place to do that so far that I've come across. Craig, can you talk a little bit more about that and your target audience? Like when you guys built the company and launched, how were you thinking about these different target audiences in terms of like the collector and kind of like the B2B aspect or the you guys Vanity Slabs to entrepreneur aspect of this? Because that's the thing that I think makes you guys unique from the other companies out there.
Yeah, excuse me. I think the biggest thing for us is we enjoy the collection aspect of it. We enjoy the hobby, not necessarily the business of it. I mean, the business is always going to be there. There's always going to be investment, and there's opportunity, and that's okay too. It's just we wanted to do something where you could display your cards with pride and decorate it however you want. On top of the issue that everybody fell into with PSA and Beckett and sending your cards away for 6, 7, 8, even a year's time. Just to get them back with a subjective grade that doesn't really meet what you might believe your card should get. And, there's a lot of issues in the grading situation now, and there's new companies coming out that are just blowing up because nobody's really putting a lot of pride in the PSA and BGS deal that they've been handed the last year or so. So I think the biggest thing for us was making sure that people understood that their collection does matter. And, it doesn't have to have a subjective grade on it in order to put it out there to the public, to show people what you have and be proud of what you have. And I think even the lends itself to the sales aspect. If somebody was looking to sell a card, if it's in a vanity slab and it's slabbed by you and has a nice header on top, it's much more likely to draw some eye appeal than something in a top loader or magnetic one touch or something of that nature. Another thing that we took pride in was making sure that the cards was secure. We went through 3 separate productions of it just to make sure the card was being held at an airtight. So it seals like Tupperware, so it wouldn't be able to move in transit, or if you're moving it around, or if you drop it, it's not going to pop open. So there was a lot of different things that went into it, and I think the big number one word that we wanted to emphasize was pride, and just having people taking pride in what cards they have in their collection as a whole.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I looked into how can I slab my cards just for the sake of differentiating my presentation as someone who's just flipping cards. And the fact that you guys were able to come up with a solution that's turnkey for someone like me, I don't necessarily want to start my own grading company or anything like that, but what I would like to do is offer a solution to the audience that's a little bit different, that you guys have an answer for, which is like, let's say I go out and buy 10 Grayson Allen Prism rookie cards. I can sell them in a lot in top loaders. I can have them graded, or I can maybe do something like order a package from Vanity Slabs that would allow me to slab them in the fashion that you're talking about with the Tupperware-esque type of sealing. I can at least display them that way. I can even use the vanity slab and sell it that way. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I can go and I can actually customize the label. Can you talk about that? Like if I wanted to put my nooffseason.com logo with the player name and different things like that on the label, present it to the potential buyer, not as a grade, but just present it in a more professional way with my own brand. Talk about that a little bit in terms of the label customization, and who is that best for, and how is that process done with you guys?
Well, we have a bunch of affiliates we've been working with. I just got back from North Carolina, as I explained before we popped on here. I was working with Cardiacs out of Apex, and they have a situation with us where they ordered so many slabs and they wanted their own logo, and we even got them a custom cutter to make sure the cut was exact every single time. So we've partnered with a bunch of breakers that will use their logo. They'll display the hits, and they'll still ship in top loaders. We've had certain people from different places for sales on eBay that they'll use the display portion of it to show the card, and again, it's more of an eye appeal thing. So I don't necessarily think there's an exact science to who we're trying to target. It's we wanted to have it as versatile as possible. So there's so many options that people could use. The labeling aspect is still fairly new, so we're updating that constantly. The CEO, Henry, is really good with the tech aspect, and he's been monitoring that. And, there's different features we're looking into adding on, maybe even a type of search where you just show the card, or you scan a card and it can go and show you what colors and how to match them up with your logos and all those other things. But for the bigger affiliates and partners that we've made so far, we have a design team that is created. For instance, for you, if you wanted to put your logo on the header, we put together a few designs and let our affiliates and our partners select which one they want. And we've as much as shipped out labels, we've shipped out cutters, we've even shipped printers at this point to get guys going into the right direction to make sure that everything is quote unquote in its place and not kind of all over the map, because it's still new. So a lot of people might not know exactly how to use the label or how to open the case. And we try to put some tutorials up on the website, and we'll still be building each and every day. I mean, we just launched here in August at the National, so we got a lot of growing to do, but it's been fun so far.
Yeah, we're talking in November, so you guys have come a long way really fast. You got a great website, you got a great tutorial video on there, a lot of different awesome packages available for all different kinds of audiences, whether you're a collector or whether you're a business, a breaker, somebody flipping cards like me. Yeah, a bunch of great stuff from Vanity Slabs. And as an affiliate, you even have a back-end turnkey affiliate tracking system already for me, which I was very impressed by. So you guys are doing some amazing work, and we appreciate being partners with you.
Thank you. We love having the growth has been amazing, and people like yourself and in the Cardiacs team I was just with are just fantastic people, and we're excited.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Craig. I appreciate your time. Craig Conway, COO of VanitySlabs.com. We both want you to go to VanitySlabs.com/no-offseason, or go to VanitySlabs.com and use the promo code no-offseason right now. Save 10%. And yeah, keep an open mind, everybody. There's a lot of innovation happening in the sports card space, the trading card space these days. We have a lot of respect for everyone who's been in the sports card hobby for a long time, but we have been in the sports card hobby for a long time. We just took a long hiatus, and now we're back, and we're just trying to keep things moving as more and more people get into sports cards. So we love it, and thanks again, Craig. Appreciate your time. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Sports Card Strategy Show. I'm Paul Hickey with nooffseason.com. We are brought to you by MarketMoversApp.com by Sports Card Investor. Be sure to use the promo code NOOFFSEASON, all lowercase, to save 20% at the best place to track the data of your entire collection. Learn who to buy low and when to sell them high. Thanks for watching and listening to the Sports Card Strategy Show. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and check out our new Facebook group. Do all of this by going to sportscardstrategy.com. Thanks, everybody, and have a great day.